Hey everybody, Big Red Live. This is your host Josh. Joined with me are coaches Tom Harper, Tim McMahon, and Hickory High School head coach Joe Glass for tonight. Before we get started with our show tonight, we want to take a moment to make a couple announcements. Big Red Live, as always, is sponsored by Blue 42 and Countryside Barbecue. And a special announcement coming from Blue 42, October 31st, Halloween night, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Kids eat free with paying adults. Wanted to give that information out to y'all so that way y'all make sure to go check out Blue 42 on Halloween night. Thank you to our sponsors as always for sponsoring Big Red Sports Network and Big Red Live. And let's go ahead and get into it tonight. Coaches, how are y'all doing this evening?
Wonderful.
Doing good.
Yep.
All right, coaches. Coach Harper, I wanted to start off the show by talking about this. So yesterday we had the Glen Alpine Hall of Fame ceremony going on, and yesterday you got to participate in the event. I wanted to get your thoughts on the situation, on the event there, and talk about a little bit about who you were there for, which was Coach Robert Crawley.
Well, I was very happy to be involved in something that was very special. You know, Glen Alpine is a wonderful community that has a lot of pride, and to have that Hall of Fame and to recognize those people that have been a part of Glen Alpine for such a long time was really nice to be involved in. And I was glad to stand up and talk about our friend, Robert Crawley, who I wished he'd have been there to be able to accept it himself because he really, really enjoyed it. It was a great event for a great cause and a great bunch of people, and I'm glad I had a chance to be involved in it.
Tim and Coach Glass, I know you guys have obviously been, around Coach Crawley for an extended period of time. Coach Glass, you played for him. Do you guys have any stories to reflect on, the type of man that Coach Crawley was, not only as just a coach, but just as an individual himself?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that out of all the guys that coached me from high school, he was the only coach that I still was in contact with and would check on me and call and different things like that. He also, since I've been back at Hickory, he would like, "Hey, where you at?" And I'm like, working." He's like, "I'm outside." So like when he was taking his mom to the doctor and stuff like that, he just stopped by and say hey and different things like that. And Crowley was one of those guys. He'd get in your tail, but he was really more of a people's coach, a player's coach. I mean, he would laugh and joke with you. He'd have RC colas and moon pies with you. But now he's probably the first coach that I ever saw that would talk just cash junk to you. I remember when I got moved up, as soon as I got to high school, we didn't have junior high then. I got moved up, and I'm going against Al Noose and Tim Springs and some of these dudes that are like big time. And here I am, just a little old kid that had been playing football like 2 years. And they moved me up, and I am getting destroyed. And he goes, looks like the moment's a little too big for you, huh, big boy? And I was like, you're probably right. Let me go back down to JV and play after week 3 because this ain't no fun. But, just a great guy. Like I said, only coach that I had the whole time I've been coaching that really kept and reached out once I, was in from my high school years.
Yeah, Robert was, Tom and I both coached with him and a lot, and Joe played for him. I'll speak to him as a teammate way back in high school, and moving in here. I had to move away from Morgan. When I came back, I was in 10th grade, and Robert, and I've mentioned this before, I think, but Robert and your dad, Josh, were two guys that kind of made that transition. When you're moving, but even though I'd been a Morgan guy, I had been gone for 3 years, so I didn't really know anybody on that football team. And Robert and your dad, Josh, really kind of took me in and made that transition good. He was just a great teammate. Led to great friendship. We did high school things together, and I don't want to talk about them here, but he was somebody you would always count on. And if you ever needed Robert, all you had to do was think about it. He was there before you ever had to ask him. So, he just means a lot. He always meant a lot to me. not just coaching with him, but he was a friend since I was, God, I guess I don't remember my age, 14, 15 years old. So, and it always stuck with me. You move in, a lot of people kind of shun you for a while. You got to earn your stripes, but not with Robert and your dad. We just took right up and been lifelong friends, actually.
Yeah, I remember Coach Carly when I was a kid. I was in probably sixth grade, and I remember I went up to head coach at Freedom at the time was Brandon Allen, and I went up to him and asked him if I could be ball boy. And I remember on Friday nights before the games, me and Coach Carly would have a little side conversations, and he'd always tell me stories about my dad. To which, when I come home and tell him stories, my dad would tell me not to believe a darn word he said. But I always loved Coach Carly. He was always really good to me, really kind to me, and always treated me as if I was older than I actually was.
He was the real McCoy. If he cared about you, all you had to do was call, and he would be there for you. And he's sure is missed.
Yeah, I don't think he ever forgave me for breaking his windshield with my feet after he suplexed me TV wrestling in McDonald's parking lot. Though I still don't think he ever forgave me for that.
Well, I told that story yesterday when I stood up and talked about him, but I didn't name any names because McMahon was in the crowd and I didn't want to embarrass anybody. So
I'm way past being embarrassed about it, but that's a fact. We had rehearsed that, and done it several times. We was in the McDonald's parking lot, like all the kids hung out on Saturday, and he got me up, and we were perfect. But somehow that time, my feet were supposed to land on his windshield first, but it didn't happen, and cracked that windshield out. And I had three broken ribs. All he cared about was that windshield. He loved that car, though. Golly, he loved that car. He drove it the whole high school. But anyway, we'll move on. But yeah, I don't think we could talk all night about Robert Crawley.
amen. There's stories out there.
Great man, and a bunch of great men that have been inducted into the Glen Alpine Hall of Fame for the class of 2025. Want to thank Bob Duckworth and the group over there at the Glen Alpine Hall of Fame for putting together a great event there and recognizing all these individuals that have had such a massive impact in the not only just the Glen Alpine community, but amongst all individuals in Burke County. So well done on their part. And thank you, coaches, for taking the time to talk about them.
Josh, before we go on and talk with Joe Glass, just one more thing. Being a Freedom guy, and I know there were a lot of great inductees, but just real quick again, Bo Taylor was inducted in the Glen Alpine Hall of Fame, and I still say that one of the most amazing things I've ever heard of in high school football is that he's carried the chains for 50 consecutive years at Freedom High, and he played football for Coach Wilson at Glen Alpine. He was an offensive lineman and a linebacker, and he went into the Hall of Fame. So, like I said, when I played, he was carrying the chains. When I coached at Freedom, he was carrying the chains. I went to South Carolina and then all that, came back, was just watching games, and he was still carrying the chains. So amazing. He just quit, I think, what did they say, Tom, 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
And I still say do anything 50 years, but I just wanted to mention that real quick with a Freedom connection here. That awful good to see him go in there, and he was wearing his old leather jacket, and it was pretty cool to see.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, we once again, we want to take a moment to welcome Joe Glass to the show. Coach, we appreciate you for taking time out your Sunday evening to come and talk to us. Coach, your team's coming off a massive win on Friday night against East Lincoln to take first place in the conference with 2 weeks remaining in the season. Just wanted to get your recap on the game and what your thoughts were on the Red Tornadoes' victory.
I'm one of those guys kind of racist things. Most thing I remember is the bad calls by the referees, but of course you can't really talk about that nowadays. But
we can talk about it here.
Oh, it was bad, buddy. Let me tell you, it was real bad. Speaking of referees, I get it, I understand. People aren't doing it anymore, and it's bad. This has been the worst I've seen it in a long time as far as referees and help, and it's bad. But great game. We knew it was going to be a tight one. Exciting atmosphere. It's absolutely packed, standing room only. I feel like our kids did a very good job of understanding the moment. We jump out early and kind of shock them. I'm not sure they were ready for the moment and some of the things that we did. And I don't think that they've not been down in the game. And in fact, I had to go to last year's film to find a punt. I don't think they had punted all year long. So offensively, they've done a lot of good things, and so we knew it was going to be a good game. We thought we had a good game plan coming in. I have a great staff. Coach Natolo did a great job offensively game planning, and Coach Simmons did a very good job defensively, kind of trying to figure out what we needed to do. We knew we needed to try to stop number 4, which we didn't stop him, but he didn't score. So when he's been scoring 3 and 4 touchdowns a game, so and then we knew we had to keep the quarterback in the pocket. We had to contain him, and we decided that if they're going to beat us, they're going to run the ball and throw it to the other guys, and we were able to come out with a win.
Well, that number 4 is special.
Yeah,
Whew.
he's the real deal.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you this question. You've had some tough wins over the past few weeks with, the come behind victory at Maid, and then a come from behind victory this past week against East Lincoln. You talk about the beginning of the year with the first game of the season. A lot of people kind of counted Hickory out of the equation after, having lost such a massive senior class. But you and your JV program obviously had a lot of talent returning, coming back up to the varsity program this year. How have you and your team kind of been able to adopt that kind of underdog mentality that, the media's kind of counted y'all out? And, how have you adopted that underdog mentality to carry that week to week and, continue to dominate in conference play?
Well, I mean, we love it. We love being doubted, and we love being the underdog. So anything that we see or somebody sends me, I immediately send it to our seniors and send our group chat and send our coaches. And there might be some stuff that gets posted on the locker room doors and stuff like that, just to kind of, we want our kids, when those games to come like ready to chew through barbed wire. And most of the time they are. This group's a little different. The maiden game, everybody asks, like, what did you say at halftime? Like, this isn't the group, you guys been coaching a long time, Tom and Mac. Certain groups you can go in and you can absolutely light them up and they'll respond. Like the group we had last year, I'd have to fake mad. Because if I didn't come in and we could be up by 28, and if I came in and didn't light them up or get upset about something, they would just fall apart. So this group here is not like that. This group is more, you're fine, you're built for this, we're going to be okay, and they have been. So it's a testament to our coaches too. I mean, our coaches just stay the course and do what we need to do, and our kids believe in it.
I think it's a tribute to that statement right there, Coach, is that you all have decided this is what we're doing offensively, this is what we do defensively, and we're going to stick to our game plan and make adjustments as we see fit, but you're not going to go crazy if you go up a lot or go down a lot. You're just going to stay the course. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I mean, defensively, Coach Simmons is new. He's his second year, and I learned a lot from you over years of playing base defense and not blitzing a lot and playing base so the kids don't have to think. So we try to make where our kids don't have to think a whole lot, because I think if a kid has to think, he's going to play slow. If your brain is moving, your feet aren't. So what I think. So we try to be very, very, like, we don't blitz a ton. I mean, I bet you can count on my hands and feet how many times we blitz throughout the year. And if we do, it's like one guy. So we just play base defense and try to make it as easy and simple as possible. And then people think it's funny, and we've got, like, I just had my wife counted up a little bit ago, like our running backs got like 1,100 some odd yards. We run 2 run plays. We run dart, we run counter, and that's it. So we are very, very simple. Our offensive line don't have to think. They know their rules. They can think. They can play fast. We want to run past one pass protection. So our offensive line only have to learn 3 things. So with that being said, it's very easy. Like, and we've played without our full starting offensive line the last 3 weeks. Number 70 didn't play last week, and then our other kid, the guard, didn't play this week. And we've got a kid named Landon Vasquez who's 5'9", maybe 175, 180 pounds, has stepped in and done a great job for us and filled in. But the rules are easy; it's very simple, and so he doesn't have to think a whole lot. So that's kind of the philosophy we have, and we just stick to our guns.
I tell you, anybody knows football, watch it and see it. It's hell sakes that your guys are underdogs. They don't know what they're watching. You got a good football team, and I always thought I heard the same thing about Watauga too. They're not underdogs either. So you've got a really good football team, a lot of talented kids, and they're obviously well coached. And that's what I loved about that game. I thought that, there were mistakes made, but I felt as far as both teams, it was really well played. Both teams made big plays, a lot of big plays, but both teams came back from adversity. And I thought the decision, the onside kick was was really the turning point in the game. Really decided the football game because it always put them behind the possession. So I think it was the best game I've seen in person since that was a great game in South Carolina when Matt coached the state championship, but it's the best game I've seen at least in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, the onside kick, I'd called it the play before, the kickoff before, but they had lined up in their 5-4, so we switched it back. So we've done a lot of onside kicks. I've never really been a gambler, but we've done a lot this year. Like we run middle dribble. Our kicker is phenomenal. He's only a junior. This is only his first year playing varsity football. I think he's 97% kicking in the end zone. So a lot of teams don't feel like
He
they have to.
is a weapon.
Yeah, a lot of teams don't feel like they have to practice kickoff return against us. So they were ready for middle dribble, so that's what we call it. So we put in surprise on side, and I'd seen on our first kickoff they had left one lineman over there. And the crazy part is the kid that got it, Weaver, he was playing wide receiver earlier, and he struggles catching the ball, but he scooped that thing up and took off.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we actually had a fake punt call the series before, and ended up getting a penalty. So we just said.
I thought it was a great timing. Was great. I mean, it just took a lot of guts.
Games like that can come down to one decision like that because it was
That's
that.
right.
That really, that's almost like what is a turnover basically. So you went up a turnover. It was well called, well executed.
Yeah, kids did a great job.
Well, Coach, let's take some time to talk about the team. Let's talk about who's been stepping up into leadership roles this season. So let's start with the offensive side of the ball. Who have you seen this year step up into a leadership role?
Our quarterback, Maddox, has done a great job. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year if I thought Maddox was going to be playing at the level he was, I probably would have said no because he's a baseball kid, and he played under Brady, behind Brady the last couple of years, and wasn't. And he actually, and we talked about this. I actually sat down with him in the office during the spring and said, like, are you really going to be committed to this? Is this what you're going to do? Because you can't play quarterback for us if you're not going to be committed. And he assured me he was, and he's done a great job. I mean, that Friday night was probably the best game he's had in his career. So he's done a really good job of stepping up, and we're hard on him. And he just says yes, sir. I don't know if he's being a turd when he's doing it, but it works. So I don't say a whole lot, but he'll just say yes, sir, and stop looking at you. So it's like you get on, I said yes, sir, and he looks away, and he's all right. Give me next play. Give me next play. So he's learned to not. And if you'd asked him as a JV kid, he struggled. When he struggled, he would struggle the next play. He hasn't done that. He's done a really good job of just being able to move on from stuff. And I think that comes from him being a high level pitcher. And, those guys can give up home runs, just throw the next pitch. So he's done a really, really good job for us there.
Is he a senior?
Yes, sir.
And what's his height, weight measurements?
He's about 6'4". I'm pretty sure he's about 195, somewhere in there. He's thick in the hips.
He was better than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, he played really well. He really played well. And he's played well the last couple of weeks, and Coach Natoli has done a really good job of not trying to make him something he's not and trying to live up to his strengths. We knew coming in that we needed to be able to run the football. And we knew we had some pretty good running backs back there to be able to do it. And offensive line is pretty dang good when we're all healthy. So we knew we were going to lean on the run, get people to crowd the box, and give us situations where we can use our receivers. All our receivers are underclassmen. Running backs underclassmen. The only upperclassmen we have are the linemen and the quarterback. Everybody else is juniors and sophomores. So we knew we were going to be young, especially, and we knew we were going to struggle against South Point with that because we were so young, and that was their first varsity game and playing against a really good, really disciplined football team. So, Coach Natoli's done a really good job offensively getting those guys where they need to be. Leadership, Rashad Swinton, number 70, he's going to Campbell. He's actually stepped up and done a really good job of leading. He played defensive line for us on the state championship team, and then begged to go to offensive line. How many times you hear that? But he begged to go to offensive line, so he moved to offensive line. He's done a really good job stepping up for us. And probably the heart and soul of our whole team is Dom Sturgill, number 51. Small tackle, undersized, but I'm gonna tell you, he will light you up if he gets a chance. Start as guard on that 2023 team. Just grimy, hardworking. You'd absolutely love him. And the other kid, Sadler, the other tackle, our two tackles they could go play linebacker anywhere else in the state if they wanted to. So they bought into it and they're doing a great job.
Well, that
You
just goes to show.
player that said, "I want to go to offensive line."
You don't hear
Yep.
that.
You don't.
Not very often.
Well, I just wanted to point this out because, like last year, you had a really good running back in Isaiah Lackey. You mentioned previously in the show that you've already got a running back that's hit over 1,000 yards on the season. That just goes to show you the workhorses you got up front and the selflessness that you see from those offensive linemen. It's a rarity to see that from players that will give up one position on the defensive side of the ball to go to another position that they know is a need and be able to sacrifice in order for the success of the team.
Oh, absolutely.
Now let's
Why he's being successful right now. He's got unselfish kids.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we do. We really have a good group of kids, and we got a good group of guys coaching them. Darren Benfield, you all know him. I got Darren to come 2 years ago. Kyrie Connor Harper, who you coached, is coaching offensive line for me, and I go over there and bark a little bit. But Kyrie's a gentle giant. Kids love him, but he's not that hardcore get in your tail kind of guy. And I needed somebody besides me that would come over there and just get old school offensive line. And Benfield has come in and done a good job of old school offensive line. I mean, and the kids love him. They jump on him and beat him up half the time, but when they're playing around. But he's really done a good job with that group. Both those guys have.
Now let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Who do you have on the defensive side of the ball that's been stepping up into that leadership role for you guys?
Well, defense is where we had the most kids coming back. Brett Rowland is our free safety number 16. He made some mistakes the other night, but Brett had 16 interceptions last year as a free safety. So we have put him in some situations this year where it's not what he does best, and we realize that, especially in the maiden game. We realized at halftime, like, we're putting him in a situation. He's not an in the box come tackle you safety. But anyway, Brett does a good job of lining things up, make sure people where they need to be. Dorian Medley, number 1, who's committed to App. I mean, we can play him anywhere on the field. I mean, in the maiden game, he came in and they had a receiver that was absolutely lighting us up. He locked him down. Kid had 1 catch in the second half. Friday night, the kid that we put on, the kid's averaging a bunch of touchdowns a game. He was able to stop him. So he's done a really good job there. Our defensive line, they're all seniors. We've got a big kid, Gary Gabriel, that's come in from Connecticut. Now, I can't teach him to use his hands because he won't do it, but now he's pretty dang good. He just goes in there and we say, "Me, Gary," and he just goes through bumbling through the line. So, "Me, Gary, me tackle football." So we give him a hard time. So, and then we've got the Sadler kid, number 50. He plays defensive end for us. Micah Hurd, who's just a little stump that's strong and relentless, does a good job. And then we've got Max Yunt, who's a taller, 6'4", 225-pound defensive end. So we're really led by our defensive line in that aspect, and then our 2 inside linebackers, Carter and Landon, do a really good job of reading guards and getting downhill fast. And then we're kind of long. We got some length. Tony does a really good job at outside linebacker. He's 6'3", 6'4", around 175, 180. So, with our length, it makes it tough on teams as far as on the perimeter, especially because we got 6'3" safety, 6'3" safety, 6'4" outside linebacker. So, 6'4" defensive end, 6'3" defensive end. So having that length makes it tough on a lot of teams. But, as far as one person that steps out, Dorian really has. But, really, they're just a great unit that works together and does a good job.
Let's talk about special teams. Obviously, you talked about the onside kick. That's a very important aspect of the game, and it's a lot. A lot of really good teams in this area have really good special teams. So talk about special teams for a second.
Well, we made it. We ended up hiring a guy named Bruce Gerber, and I don't know how he fell into our lap, but he was a special teams coach at a junior college in some other state. And I got an email and went to spam, and I found it like a month later. And he's a business guy, works in Statesville, but he's come in and we, normally I would spend 10, 15 minutes on special teams a day. But now we're spending 25 minutes on special teams a day. We have cut practice time down to 45 minutes offense, 45 minutes defense, and we spend more time on special teams. And I think we've blocked 4 or 5 punts. We've got a bunch of onside. So I think that's really made a difference for us in a lot of games and stolen us a lot of possessions because, everybody wants to go play defense, go play offense. And, since I'm not calling anything really anymore and I'm kind of roaming around, so I'm kind of like more in the punt and stuff like that. And then Coach Natoli also helps a ton. I mean, he's got everything locked up with the kickoff return and stuff like that. So, it really gives us a chance to really hone in on things that a lot of teams just, I think, take for granted. I never will again. I mean, we've done less with more by adding more special teams time.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you this then. I call this kind of like the unsung hero category, but has there been any players on the team this year that kind of come out of nowhere and took a big leap in their play this year?
Yeah, I mean, ones I say with Maddox. I mean, I think Maddox has done a great job. If you'd have asked me that we would have this success throwing the ball that we have right now, I don't know if we would have, but he's done a really good job, and really played lights out. And there's a bunch of them. I mean, I could go over numerous kids. We've got kids like Christian Lineberger, who, I mean, Christian couldn't stay out of trouble, and he was suspended here, suspended there last year, got in all kinds of trouble, and now he's a straight A, like AB student. He's coming in, getting his good quality minutes, playing well. Got Defensive Player of the Week one time. Skylar Glover's another one that's coming in, and it's really our kids that come and give us our backup roles. But they come in and really don't miss a beat. And we're talking about kids that were knuckleheads as freshmen and sophomores and kind of figured it out and came in. And then the other one is Jakyron Weaver. Weaver is, he has really turned the corner and locked in. Super athletic kid, super fast. And we're able to put him at corner, put him at running back, put him at slot. We need to use him more, but the kids are playing so well. He would go and be a starter anywhere else. And that, once again, that tells you about how committed he is. And, his family's big Hickory people, and we look for towards the end of the season and things like that for him to really get off more, especially going to the playoffs.
Sounds like you got a lot of selfless players.
Well, at least right now they are.
Well,
I don't see anything. I don't see any selfishness right now out of them.
Yeah, you win and you don't have that kind of stuff. But I got one more thing before we get off here with Coach Glass, is that, we all really know, if you've kind of followed the program a little bit, we all really know that the key to your success really is Josh Coffey.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
We got to take some time to talk about the expertise of offensive calling of Josh Coffey, because, I mean, he's undefeated basically on the JV level when it comes to head coach. So take a few minutes to talk about him.
Man, I'll tell you, Coffee and I have been together since 2012. He followed me to Greensboro. He followed me to Concord. Just an unbelievable guy. And, he has really taken over the JV program at Hickory and done a great job. He's constantly doing the same things we do on varsity. We've rotated that out from year to year, head coach here, head coach there. But there's nobody else that I think cares about the kids like he cares about kids.
Amen.
And he's gonna get in their tail, but he's also gonna take them to go get something to eat and find out what's wrong with. Like, a lot of times he tells me what's going on because I can't keep up with all of them. But what he does with our program, what he does with our kids, and the way he's always doing things. I mean, I tell everybody he loses money to come coach football. Because he does construction and everything else.
I joke about what I just said, but he really is committed to not only Hickory but you, because he's a good friend of yours, and he loves being able to make. We talked yesterday at Glen Alpine Hall of Fame about making a difference. Josh Coffey likes making a difference, and we Mac and I had the great pleasure of being able to coach him when he was high school, and he's kind of caught that same kind of wanting to be involved in young people and help them get to the next chapter in their lives. So,
he quits every year. I mean, every last game is his last game every year.
Yes, I know. And he's been doing it for 10 years.
Well, I silently pray, like, please God, I hope he doesn't quit. Please God, I hope he doesn't quit. But I don't say anything because once I say something, then he might actually do it. So I just don't say anything, hoping that it's just him talking again. But I think he gets the itch, and once you start doing this, it's hard to step away.
Amen.
Especially when you got a good group of kids. We got a great community. We've got a great school. It's really hard to step away from those type of things. And I think he's lost. I want to say that he has lost 2 JV games the entire time he has been at Hickory in the 5 years. And I want to say at Robinson, he might have lost 3 games the entire time we were there. So, You know, he does a heck of a job. I mean, you know, he ain't gonna throw a hitch for nothing. I'll go crazy on the hitch. Like when you throw a freaking hitch, and that joker's gonna draw in the dirt as quick as he can. And he's probably 75% right on his drawing in the dirt. So I don't even say anything anymore. I just see Coach Natoli put his headset down and shake his head like this. I'm like, is he drawing in the dirt? He goes, yes. I'm like, guess we'll see what happens. So, you know,
Wow.
he's a good one. I would, like I said, we would not have the success that we have at Hickory and the success that I've had as a head coach if I didn't have him.
Everybody needs a guy like that. And he called me Friday night. I don't know. I guess these guys were on the way home, and we talked. And he was talking about the game, and I just couldn't believe it. I thought back to when he played, how far he has absolutely come, and I wouldn't worry about him quitting. He quit every game but Freedom, but he never did. So that's just Josh. It's like, but he's come a long, long way. But I did tell him I was a little worried on that when that quarterback sneak, that spotting issue. I said, Josh, you know that normally if the assistant coach goes out past the hash, you usually get a flag. You better be careful on that.
Yeah, I had to snatch him back and tell him to shut up. But, you know, it was.
The coaches don't get away with a whole lot.
Well, the guy on our sideline was pretty cool. He was the same guy we had at Newton when they did the whole, I don't know if you heard about this debacle, but.
We did about that, and that was unbelievable.
Yeah, block punt. Anyway, so he was the same guy on our sideline. And so he knew he was going to get it Friday night. I mean, he already knew. Like, he was on our sideline again, so he knew it was coming. You know, he just laughed. And I told him, I said, you've already screwed me one game. Now you get me again. He just kind of laughed about it, whatever. And then the back judge was another one on that group. So fun times. So.
Well,
That's
Coach.
the whole subject down the road.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you for taking some time to come out and talk to us. And one last thing before we go, you know, we obviously had your assistant coach, Josh Coffey, on the show a few weeks ago, and we saw that you were tuning in. What would the grade be on his little report card on how he handles the media?
Oh, he's A+. No question. Did a great job.
Absolutely, Coach.
You don't think so?
Yeah, he'll tell you. But, you know, you got to worry about Coffee now. Coffee, I used to have to monitor his social media a little bit to see what he's saying to people, because Coffee takes it personal. He gets ticked off and he'll say something to somebody else and does not care. He will go back at somebody on social media real quick. I'm like, Coffee, man, just let it go. He's like, no, that made me mad. I'm like, you just gotta let it go, man. But you know, he's calmed down a little bit. He's he's an old man now, so full gray beard and everything else. So he's calmed down in his old age.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, we appreciate you for coming out and talking to us this evening, and
appreciate you.
We wish you and the Red Tornadoes the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you. All right, guys.
Love you, brother.
Love you.
Have a good one, Coach.
All right.
All right, coaches. I know you guys were at the East Lincoln game on Friday night, and I asked for Coach Glass's little thoughts on that. So I wanted to tap the coach's brains here. What were your thoughts on the East Lincoln game on Friday night?
Wasn't sure I wanted to go all week. Had talked myself into it because I said I might. And then
talk yourself into it. I talked you into it.
Well, okay, but whatever. And then I come to find out, get a call, and it's not in Hickory, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I was not. I even go to Hickory. I was like, okay, I could do Hickory, but now I got to go to Denver, North Carolina. But I'm telling you what, I think in person, it's the best high school game I've seen since, like I said, for at least the last 4 years. And I'm not.
Number one, you talk about the environment. I mean, we get there, what, 6:30, 6:45? And it's already 3/4 filled up. We're wondering if we're going to get a seat.
Good crowd.
It was a great environment.
First time I've ever been on their campus. I'd never even seen that school, and impressed. I was impressed with East Lincoln. Their atmosphere, it's an older stadium, but they get it rocking, and I was impressed with their football team. It was I wish we had more games like that. It was so far ahead of all the games that I've seen in person. You know, we've spoke to the competitive balance. I wish we had more games that were just even close to that. But that was a really, really good high school football game. and either team could have won that football game. And I don't know if they'll meet up again, but if they do, I hope to be in that to see that one too, because I expect a lot of the same, because both teams are very talented and well coached and got big playmakers. It makes for an exciting game.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a look at some of the scores from Friday night. As you can see on the scoreboard here, we did have a lot of games last night that had some not last night, but on Friday night that were playoff implication games. For example, Newton Conover West Iredale was a biggie for playoff implications. And a bunch of other games had some big playoff implications. But I'd probably say the biggest surprise from Friday night was probably Stuart Kramer beating Lincolnton 45-21. And this comes after Lincolnton pulled off an overtime victory over Shelby last week.
Yeah, I was surprised. I don't know if I was surprised that Stuart Kramer won. I was surprised they won so big. I thought it would be a closer game, and they kind of won going away. That was surprising to me, but Stuart Kramer must be a pretty good football team.
Absolutely. And some other games that had some playoff implications. Drawn with an offensive explosion on Friday night at West Caldwell, scoring 58 points, coming away with a thrilling 58-44 victory. The Wildcats scored a lot of points in that game, and that was a big game for West Caldwell when it comes to the playoff implications, because West Caldwell is sitting at one of those low seeds that are kind of on the bubble of being in versus out on the playoffs, on the playoff scale. So Friday night kind of took a bit of a hit, but I still think that they're still somewhat on that playoff bubble, but they got to find a way to see if they can find a victory over the next couple of weeks to kind of help the playoff chances. Also, some other games with some playoff implications on Friday night. Just basically everything that you see here. I mean, I'd probably say you look at these scores from Friday night, and, you know, it's like Max said a couple of weeks ago, you just got a lot of games on here that have just been blowouts, and Friday night was no different. There was a lot of games on the slate that were blowouts, and I'd probably say a handful of them were really good ball games.
Yeah, not many scores. Just looking at it, I don't know how many 2-score games, or even what I know the East Lincoln Hickory is a 1-score game. It looks like I don't know, maybe Madison Owens, but yeah, it's the trend is holding true for mostly lopsided. Even though you'd have thought drawing in West Caldwell had an opportunity to be a close game. I guess it kind of was. It just a lot of scoring. That was that 14-point game.
Yeah.
I see that drawing got them a win. I hate to see teams go the whole year and not at least get one, and that's good. And
looks like the Maiden Bandies game was a game of, like old times.
Absolutely. That is a big rivalry in Catawba County, and certainly lived up to that hype as both teams just traded blows all night, and the Blue Devils had enough left in the tank and was able to come away with a victory on Friday night. Another big victory you want to look at too is High Brighton over RS Central. That was for position in the conference, for potentially second place in the conference. And with that victory there, High Brighton's kind of slotted in that second slot in their particular conference. And as long as East Rutherford continues to take care of business, it should be East Rutherford and High Brighton in that 1-2 order in that conference heading down the stretch.
I think two games that were intriguing to me a little bit was the Newton Conover West Iredale game. I did not think it was going to be a 1-point game. And then how about Ford getting another win?
Absolutely. Some interesting games on Friday night. Newton Conover West Iredale was a shootout. I kind of expected that one to be more of a defensive slugfest, but looks like both offenses came out to play, and Newton Conover coming away with a key victory, and that's going to help them a lot when it comes to playoff seeding here in the next couple of weeks.
Those teams must be really, really balanced. Josh, you helped me out. I was looking at the Northwestern 4A scores. On your memory, is that the closest Watauga game point spread of the year?
Yes, that 42-20 actually is the repeat of the Freedom and Watauga game from 2 weeks ago. It was actually a closer game than that. It was 28-14 at the end of the third quarter, and then Watauga kind of pulled away there in the fourth quarter. It was tied at 7 after a quarter, so Alexander, they came and they gave it their best shot. They played very well against Watauga. Watauga's just, Watauga is a really good football team, and they're going to be one of those 6A teams that make a far playoff push, and they could be in the conversation for a potential state championship appearance.
The talk about Watauga is always they're real good in the regular season. Anybody that's getting in the playoffs this year, it'll be interesting when they start playing the Charlotte schools, because Mecklenburg County football is a lot different than the area teams that we've got that we've talked about. So hopefully, I want Watauga to go far. It'll be interesting because notoriously it's been tough in years past.
I think what's going to help them with this realignment was that them being a 6A school, most of the Charlotte teams are going to be slotted in that 7A, 8A category. So there's not going to be a lot of Charlotte teams in that 6A category.
I noticed that too.
I hope so.
Because it's going to be Freedom and from our car, and then I believe Charlotte Catholic is a strong team.
Charlotte Catholic has lost 2 weeks in a row, I think.
They're falling on hard times.
Well, even in a down year for Charlotte Catholic, if you consider this a down season, most programs would consider a 2-loss season to be a success. But for Charlotte Catholic, it's a down season for them. But Charlotte Catholic is still going to be one of them teams that make a deep playoff push. They're always traditionally really good, and they're always going to be in the mix for a late postseason run.
But Watauga should be a high seed, if not the number one. I suppose they were last year, so somebody's going to have to go to go to Boone and probably beat them. It looks like.
Yeah, as of right now, the seeding has the 6A classification going through Boone.
Yeah.
Is there some place that you can go on the internet where people are giving what they think is going to be the playoff listing of where people are playing and who's playing where, and like just guessing, but educated guessing? Is there something like that on the internet?
Well, you got places like High School OT that put playoff projections every week. I'm not sure if they posted their projections yet for this specific week, but they usually do weekly updates on that. And then I think our stats guy, Ralph, actually posted something in our subscriber group about potential playoff pairings. And I think the latest 6A classification thing dropped. You have Watauga sitting at a 1 seed. I think at 2 you have Ashbrook. 3 you have Charlotte Catholic. 4 you have Freedom. And at 5 you got AC Reynolds for the 6A classification.
5 is AC Reynolds? Wow.
Yes.
Oh, boy. So that division's nothing against Reynolds. It's hard for me to get over that 70-point game that Freedom played against them. So, but you look at this week's games, and look at the Northwestern 4A, or I keep calling it the Northwestern again. That I'm curious about Alexander and Freedom. I think Freedom's probably going to be favored in that game, and I know they've got a lot better record, but there's score differences between Watauga and the matchups, and I know that South Caldwell somehow scored 36 on Freedom Friday. I don't know much about it, and I also know that I believe that game's in Taylorsville. Even when we won over in Taylorsville, Freedom, we've always not played our best. We just had a harder time over there than a lot of other places.
I asked Bo Taylor Jr. yesterday about the 35 points that South Caldwell had put on Freedom, and he said that the reason that happened is because second half, JK, they put in all their second and third string and kept it that way. They didn't put anybody else in from the first team. So that's what I think happened. But to compare Alexander Central score with Watauga versus Freedom's score, that's what you're doing, isn't it, Mac? is looking at those two scores and thinking, okay,
I think
maybe this will be closer than we think it is, because record wise, you can't, Freedom's 7-1, and I think Alexander Central's won 2 games. But I mean, obviously they did some things Friday night that they should, maybe they're getting a whole lot better. I don't know. That's the interesting thing about it.
I will say this, though, regarding the Freedom game on Friday night. It will be played at Freedom High School, so Freedom does play really good at home. But here's the thing about it, though. The past couple weeks, we go back to the St. Stephen's game. St. Stephen's had a really effective run game against Freedom's defense. And had it not been for, the interception and a couple plays go against St. Stephen's, you could make a case that, St. Stephen's probably could have pulled off an upset. Freedom had their opportunities to kind of put the game away, and they took advantage of it late. But it shouldn't have been a one-score victory for Freedom over St. Stephen's. You look at Alexander Central, though. Alexander Central is going to be physical up front. They're going to run the football as the best they possibly can. My question will be, can Freedom up front on that defensive line match Alexander Central's physicality to be able to slow down the run game? Because when Alexander Central's successful in the run game, they become a threat in the pass game. And the one thing you don't want to do is have, an offense that's really good at running be able to do both running and go to the pass, because then that becomes a big issue defensively.
Josh, do you remember the St. Stephen's Alexander score?
St. Stephen's beat Alexander Central 21-0.
Okay. That was the first game of the conference, about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
All right. Well, you just never know. But that game's at Freedom, huh?
It's at Freedom.
It was like 2 years ago we went over there, Coach Hans last year, and didn't play very well. But I guess with the new alignment, they might have changed home and away. But that's a good thing, because you're right. Freedom will have a lot easier time at home, because over there at Taylorsville, we've won some games over there, but it has never been easy on us.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere at Alexander Central. They definitely support their football program heavily there at Alexander Central.
Yeah.
Another game you want to look out for in the Northwestern Conference this week is St. Stephen's at South Caldwell. St. Stephen's coming off a big win at McDowell, and St. Stephen's has quietly had a really solid season. I know they're sitting at 4-4, but they could easily be a 6-win team, based on some of the results they've had this year. And St. Stephen's with a win this week would definitely go a long way to securing a playoff spot for them. And McDowell at Watauga. McDowell and Watauga is going to be interesting, just to try to see how well McDowell can try to be competitive with Watauga. Watauga is probably going to be the heavy favorite. Every time you go up to Boone, it's going to be a tough game against Watauga. Watauga is always a tough team to beat up in Boone.
The biggest game of the week will be that Preston Ashbrook game.
That's the game of the whole.
Yeah, Preston Ashbrook is going to be the game to watch this week.
I mean, that's going to be the battle of two titans.
Yep.
Well, not only that, there's also another one I have on my list, and that's East Lincoln at Maiden. That is going to be a really good ball game too. We'll see how well East Lincoln can bounce back after the loss to Hickory. They're definitely going to be looking to try to, go for that second place spot, and that game's essentially going to be for second place in that conference. So, going to be a really good game, and it might be a tough one for East Lincoln. Maiden's always a tough place to play, regardless of the time of year. With it being this late in the year, it's going to start being that time of year where you have like a playoff crowd at Maiden. So I expect a big crowd at Maiden High School this Friday night, and it'd be a really good game between East Lincoln and Maiden.
Well, it's for something big too, so that it will be interesting to see, because that's a huge, you could tell Friday night that East Lincoln was really excited, felt like they had a good chance to beat Hickory at home. So it will be interesting to see how they respond to, a tough loss that could have gone a totally different, So it'll be interesting.
I'd really love to see. I'd really love to see either East Lincoln or Hickory play Watauga. And I know that's not going to happen, but that would be.
That would be a game. I'd love to see how they would handle what Watauga does.
Different styles. It would be really interesting. But I'm going to tell you, whoever comes to play East Lincoln, Joe had some people that could at least slow the kid down. But I'm telling you, there are going to be some teams that just can't handle number 4. I don't care what. He's just way better than everybody else.
I mean, we're talking about a wide receiver that plays defensive end on defense. I mean, you just don't hear of that combination. The guy's obviously, a talent, an athlete, but he's tough.
He's a football player.
Yes, sir.
Big plays. He's got his length is incredible. There were a lot of tall kids out there, but you noticed him. I mean, he was long and had arms, and he was never, even when they had, like Coach Glass saying, their defensive back number 1. He was on that kid a lot of times. He's a great athlete, but they just throw it up, and you just couldn't reach up there with him.
He's the kind of guy that we noticed him immediately when we got there. If you remember, we said, "Look at 4."
Yeah, 4 looks.
He's just impressive looking.
Just warming up, you could tell, like, uh-oh.
Yes.
Quarterback, East Lincoln's quarterback is a big guy, and he can really throw it. So, but anyway, I'll be interested in following. Now that I've got to see East Lincoln and be interested in following their scores moving on. But that Ashbrook Crest game, for the last 2 years, as I recall, those have been Donnybrooks down to the wire, tight football games, and they're for the championship. So that game is, that's not the last game of the year, though, is it? So I guess they play the next last game, but it's for that championship. So that's going to be a big game. I don't remember, where is it being played, Josh? Is that
it's at Ashbrook?
That'll help Ashbrook, but I look forward to seeing the result of that game.
It's going to be a really interesting Friday night. We got some more games this week with some heavy playoff implications going on this week. And it's kind of odd, it just feels like, I don't know about you, but it kind of feels like yesterday was the start of football season. And just like, boom, we're already 2 weeks from postseason play. So it's amazing how quick football season can go by sometimes.
I couldn't believe watching football games yesterday that they said it was week 8 of the college schedule. I mean, it has flown by, but it's that old adage, time flies when you're having fun, and college football is fun. And so is high school football. Football in general is just fun. Football season, when it ends, it's like sad to me.
Like winter hits, the clocks go back and it gets dark too fast.
Yes, thank you.
Exactly how I feel. But good thing is the NFL plays forever, so we got at least the NFL till January.
Amen. Amen.
What I do,
Absolutely.
I had to stop in December and go all the way. Actually, they play on up into February, the Super Bowl. But
I've tried to get into that USFL football. I just cannot.
I really
it's
thought
not the same.
I don't know. I know baseball starts sometimes in, and I kind of get my attention a little bit of that. But I've tried to watch it, and I thought this is not bad football, but it just don't seem to hit me.
I don't get as excited about it as I do. I mean, being able to get up. I don't get in retirement. I don't get up early, but on Saturdays I get up early because I want to see the beginning of college game day. I watch that whole thing through, drinking my coffee, and then I start at 12 o'clock watching football games all the way till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I don't want to be bothered.
I'm exactly the same, and hopefully that West Coast game won't be good because I've been known to stay up to 1 or 2.
Amen.
My eyes are blurry.
And now it started, because I stayed up and watched the Carolina Cal game on Friday night when we got back. I mean, what do you do at the end?
Sometimes I wonder they start running together because you watch so many games, but it's like a drug. I can't get off of it.
I cannot. And when I do have to get forced to get off of it, I just get in a bad mood.
Hey, well, you know what, coaches? The good thing is we still got 2 weeks of high school football regular season to go before postseason play hits. So that's always a good thing.
That's true.
Nothing better than the Friday night lights.
Tom, what did you think about Coach Franklin's interview on the game day?
I thought he was very classy. I thought he handled it very well. He could have very easily and wanted, you could feel it a little bit, that he wanted to get into it more about really what transpired. But what I loved more than anything is the way that Coach Saban came to his rescue.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
He said, look, I know you can't say it, but I can. And he went at it. And I was so happy he did. Because let's face it, James Franklin, in my opinion, got screwed.
Yeah, but he took a big check to the bank.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not.
I know.
You can't feel bad for him. He's got 50 million reasons to be fired. You know?
That's good for his family, but for him, honestly, he's a lifer kind of guy. I know we were him at one time, and that money is important, but it's his identity. It's who, and it's he'll be back coaching. You can tell he's going to coach somewhere.
I'm hoping he gets the Virginia Tech job.
Well, there's worse places.
But I'm telling you right now, I told you Friday night, and I think this is going to happen. The guy at Minnesota, PJ Fleck, is going to get the Virginia Tech job, and he helped himself because he beat Nebraska this weekend. So
you think come down to Virginia Tech? How about how about Franklin out at UCLA? A lot of people say that too.
Ooh, that'd be cool. I hope he keeps Neuheisel's son out there.
I don't know. I just thought I thought about you when he was talking. That was interesting. But he talked about it. It's a business, and it's college football it's always a bit of business, but it's full business now.
There is no loyalty left in college football.
Semifinals and one drive away from being in the national championship, and 3 weeks ago was ranked number 2 in the country, and then overtime with the number 4 team in the country, and you lose, and then 15 days later they make a change. And I don't, I don't feel, regardless of feeling bad for Franklin or not, it's just to make that kind of move in the middle of a season. Used to be nobody got fired in the middle of the season.
You at least waited until the end of the year.
Now they're paying $49 million to fire a guy in the middle of the season.
I know.
Nuts to me.
Billy Napier got fired today.
Oh, he did?
And yes, he got fired today, and he knew he was going to get fired before he played Mississippi State this weekend. And he didn't say anything, but they had told him, we're going to make a move whether you win or lose.
Well, that's tougher. I mean,
now he got $20 million. He got the cheap version.
How about Florida State?
There's no right now. He's still there, but I'm telling you right now, he's going to get fired.
They lost to Stanford.
Well, we will.
They lost to Stanford.
Yeah, they lost to Stanford last night. Yep.
Last night. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh my God.
All right, coaches. Well, we're going to have to go ahead and call it a night here for the Big Red Live. So,
no, we're not done.
We're not done. Okay, we're going to be here all night with Tom Harper. No, I'm just kidding. But everybody, we appreciate you for tuning in to Big Red Live as always. Thank you, coaches, as always, for giving the time every week to come out and discuss high school sports.
Let's do this. Let's end this. Let's end this with everybody remembering that this was the show honored to Robert Crawley.
Amen. Good.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank y'all.
Everybody have a good evening. We will see y'all next week.